Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon's plenary session will start shortly. We'd ask you to please make note of your nearest fire exit and switch your phones to silent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed your lunch. We're slowly ticking off the numbered types of potato dishes that we're eating. We've had boiled, and we've had chips, or crisps, as we like to call them in this part of the world, and good to have some jacket potatoes this afternoon as well. So this is the focus session number 1, and we're looking at consumption potatoes driving consumption in worldwide markets. And obviously something we all want to do is drive more consumption of potatoes in markets around the world. We've got some fantastic speakers from around the world with different perspectives, which I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from and enjoy. And we have Nomvula Tlaba, and she's going to say that obviously much better than I am, from Potatoes South Africa in Pretoria. And she's going to address us on the commercialization of developing farmers in South Africa. Thanks very much, Nomvula.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope the clicker is going to be kind to me. My name is Nomvula Tlaba. I work for an organization in South Africa called Potatoes South Africa. We are a farmer organization that represents all the interests of potato farmers in South Africa. I'm going to take you through what we do in terms of commercializing farmers in South Africa. If you know the history of South Africa, you understand that we have a group that was previously disadvantaged. So what we are trying to do is to actually bring them into the mainstream economy. So we've got programs that we are currently busy with that is actually trying to speed up that process. So I'm going to take you through that. Hope you will enjoy this presentation. Okay, just to give you a snapshot of what is happening in the potato industry in South Africa. We are quite big. It's a 8 billion rand primary sector, 25 billion rand secondary sector. In South Africa, 65% of the potatoes sold in the fresh produce market goes to the hawkers. They then repackage those and resell to the communities, more especially in the townships and rural areas. So they play a very big role in actually moving the potatoes that we have. The potato industry is actually very labor intensive. We employ about 50 to 60,000 people that work in the sector, in the primary production. Interestingly, in South Africa, we have potatoes throughout the year. It is planted in different regions, so there'll always forever be fresh potatoes. We don't store potatoes to resell later. So that's very interesting about us. The per capita consumption has actually increased. It has actually doubled in the past few years. We are sitting at about 38 kilograms per person of that. Whatever we produce in South Africa, we consume. We export not a lot to the SADC countries. So this is just a snapshot of the potato industry. But I'm going to zoom into the development space, which I'm responsible for, just to give you an overview of what is happening. We are funded through statutory levies. We collect about 50 million or so. And the National Agricultural Marketing Council, which is a regulatory body in South Africa, has actually stipulated that of all the levies collected, 20% must go towards the development of new farmers or the development of previously disadvantaged people. So we really had to be strategic in terms of how we then use the 20% that is allocated for the development of new farmers. But over and above that, they've actually indicated that out of the 20% that is collected, 60% of that must go towards the enterprise development program, which is the commercialization of new farmers, which I'm going to speak about. So we then decided that if you want to commercialize farmers, there's other things that you need to look at, such as the training, because if somebody has never been exposed to the potato industry, they would not have the necessary training to actually do what is required. We also decided to focus on the small grower development program, which is really about the food security in the different rural communities. There's vast areas of communities that are poor in South Africa. So as an industry, we felt that we will make a contribution in terms of making sure that the communities plant potatoes and they have something to eat at the end of the day. We also said we will focus on the tertiary skills development pipeline, which is really about getting, I'm going to, just to have context, it's about getting Black students to study agriculture. I always say that when Black people were growing up, agriculture was used as a punishment. So it's very difficult when you go to university to find a group of Black people studying agriculture. So we then said, as the industry, we will actually invest in that, go to universities, get Black students that want to study agriculture, and actually fund that. So that is the split of the funding that we have, but like I've indicated, the bulk of it actually goes to the commercialization or the enterprise development program. Okay, we've been doing this for quite some time. And we realized that it will probably take us forever to commercialize or to get our farmers to the level that we want them to be. In our terms, you become commercial or you are regarded as commercial once you start planting a minimum of 30 hectares. So when we started, we were doing 3-5 hectares. And I think the idea was us getting to big numbers. We wanted to say we have 200 or 300 Black farmers that are planting potatoes, not actually focusing on the fact that you want them to be commercial. So we then said, we are going to change the strategy. Initially, we said we want to get 6 farmers per year coming into the program. We support them. I'm going to speak about the support. And then when we feel they've actually reached the state where we feel they are okay, we exit them. But we realized that our program is for 4 years. We realized that by the time the farmer gets to first year, they don't understand anything about potatoes. They've never planted it. Maybe second year, they are starting to understand. Third year, they are starting to ask relevant questions. They are starting to ask about the fertilizers, the chemicals. Why is my neighbor getting 60 tons and I'm getting 40? What am I doing wrong? Fourth year, they're saying, I think I like this. And we exit them and we take somebody new. So it didn't work for us. We then said we'll target fewer farmers. The National Agricultural Marketing Council actually said, even if you commercialize one farmer in 5 years, but we want to see commercial farmers. So we then changed our strategy and said, we'll target fewer farmers, make sure they get to the level where we want them to be, and then exit them on the program. We also said that we want people that are already farmers. You don't necessarily have to be planting potatoes, but you must be a farmer. This is because you have the resources, you probably have the machinery, we just need to introduce you to potato farming. So we then changed our strategy in that sense. We then also said, when we are identifying farmers, we are not only going to look at potatoes, because by the nature of potatoes, you've got to be doing other crops. So if somebody comes and they're doing maize, we'll make sure that their maize business is also sustainable, because then you have a holistic commercial farmer in the end. We also realize that we can't do these things on our own. Our funding is very limited, so we need other partners to come on board to work with us. So we're very strong on actually looking for partners that will come in and co-fund these projects that we are supporting. Okay, so this is the current approach that we are embarking on in terms of developing the farmers. I'm going to speed up, I still have a few slides. So we go out, we have a selection criteria that we have. I think the main thing is about having availability to enough land for rotation. And remember, I said in South Africa, for you to be regarded as a commercial potato farmer, you must be planting a minimum of 30 hectares. So that actually means that you must have access to about 120 hectares of arable land so that you are able to rotate. So for us, that is critical. In South Africa, more hectares are planted under irrigation. So that's another main criteria that we look at. If you apply on our program, we will ask you first, how much land do you have? How much water do you have? Do you have water rights? Do you have the irrigation infrastructure for you to realize the tonnage that is that you can achieve? We do a feasibility study. We send someone, a consultant, to look at, if you say I've got this, they'll then confirm if whatever you said you have is there on the farm. And then we compile a comprehensive business plan. The idea is that the business plan is not only going to be used by us, but you can go to the banks and look for funding or go to other partners and source funding. We then enter into a formal agreement. We have contracts that our farmers sign because we want them to be committed to this 4-year period or more if we feel it's necessary. So they sign a contract to say that we are going to be participating on this program for this long. I think what is critical to us is that every farmer that participates in our program must have a mentor. So we have a very strong mentorship program. We have commercial farmers that are assisting our farmers. So they take them step by step in actually making sure that they produce as required. And we also do the mechanization planning, because in as much as we use a lot of labor, but you definitely cannot be planting 30 hectares by hand. So we check what machinery is available. And what we always say is that you don't have to own the machinery, but you need to have access to machinery so that your things can run smooth. And then we go to the monitoring phase. We check if there's access to finance. We do not fund with 100%, but we fund a certain portion, about 30%. So we'll then try to link you up with other financiers, or we will just assess your situation in terms of having the necessary funding. Then we have the business support. What we realized is that when we started, a lot of our farmers will get the money. Remember, potato farming is very profitable. But then come the next season, there's no money. They've used it up on other things, and they come back and they request that we support them. We then said, we will have a proper financial management training on a one-on-one basis with the farmers. Get somebody who will go and assist these farmers do the financial planning, make sure that they have money that they can invest back so that they can continue with the farming. So we have a lot of continuous training that takes place when we've identified these farmers. We want to exit them. Remember, I think we are actually measured by how many farmers have been on the program and exited and are carrying on with farming. So we will exit our farmers if we realize that, because we don't always start them on 30 hectares, we probably start them on 10 or 15, but we then gradually grow them and they get to this level of 30 hectares or so, and then we want to exit them. We'll still provide some support like the mentorship and some linkages, but the idea is that you get on our program, you exit, you carry on as a commercial farmer. Okay, this is some of the support that we are providing. I think the main thing is the provision of inputs, and our inputs are in the form of seed. Reason being, it's very difficult in South Africa to get good quality seed, and our farmers don't know where to go when they need this type of seed. So we decided that that's where we are going to enter. It's very easy to get fertilizer, chemicals and stuff, but seed is very difficult. But what we've also said is that we want you to be commercial. If you are going to be a commercial farmer, you can't live on grants forever because this funding is a grant. So what we are doing is that we give you the funding on a 25% sliding scale. So in the first year, we will fund you with 100% of the total cost of seed. In the second year, we reduce it by 25%. Until it's zero and you exit the program. But remember, we at some point we decided that we don't have to exit farmers at 4 years. We can actually extend that as long as maybe at 5 or 6 or 7 years, they can get to the 30 hectares, then we exit them. I've already mentioned the issue of training, very big with us, financial management and the technical training, mainly the irrigation. What we realized was that the new farmers, they really struggled to get the balance in terms of irrigation. They will either over-irrigate or under-irrigate. So we have those programs where we are assisting the farmers to make sure that they get the tonnage that other commercial farmers in the area are getting. I must say that I'll speak about the tonnage just now, but the mentorship has actually played a very important role in making sure that the farmers that we are supporting are operating at an acceptable level in terms of the tonnage. But I'll speak about that just now. And the industry exposure, I always say that when these farmers start on our program, some of them have never seen a fresh produce market. They don't know where their potatoes are going to go. Some of them have never been to a McCain plant to see if I'm selling to McCain, what's going to happen to my potatoes. So we have those programs where we expose the farmers in the bigger industry so that they understand if they need support, where exactly do they go. And I think the linkages with other partners, remember at the end of 4 or 5 or 6 years, we want to exit them, but we want to link them up with somebody so that they carry on. So we really do put our farmers together with other partners that are there. Okay, I'm just going to cover this one very quickly. This is just some of the partners that we are working with, the cooperatives, the VKB. I think they've actually come on board in making sure that the core funding that is required by the farmers is available. I think what we always say is that we are not looking for grant funding for our farmers, but we are looking for access to funding so that they are able to grow. So this cooperative has actually come on board and they've assisted our farmers. So we know that if we give the 30%, maybe they'll get 50% from the cooperatives, which is what we want as the industry. The government department, I think we struggled with them supporting our new farmers, but I think they are slowly coming on board. And the good thing is that they assist our farmers with infrastructure, mainly and machinery, which then makes it easier for the farmers. In South Africa, we're struggling with the banks because of their lending criteria, but we are in negotiations with them because we really want to hand over our farmers to commercial banks so that they can feel like they are commercial as well. We have off-takers such as McCain, PepsiCo. I think there's a very big project that PepsiCo is running right now. I think they've got funding of about 600 million. They've got an off-take, so we are also engaging with them in terms of making sure that our farmers, when they plant the potatoes, then they have a market for that. And the input suppliers, those input suppliers, remember our idea is that farmers must be linked with, say, the input suppliers, the financiers. And the good thing about some of these input suppliers, they say, no, we'll give you, say, fertilizer or chemicals on a 6-month interest-free loan. Once you start harvesting, then you start paying. So those are the relationships that we are trying to build on behalf of our farmers. Okay, this is just to give you the value creation in terms of the sector, the developing sector. We currently have 15 farmers. Remember, this is not, it's just farmers that are currently on the system, but we've had more farmers in the system. We've exited them. And those that did not perform, we also exited them. Some of them voluntarily exited because they felt like, you know, they were trying their luck, it didn't work. So this is the value creation in terms of the sector. This is the contribution that we make towards the enterprise development, about 6.7 million. The farmers, remember, when you are in the second year, you have to contribute. So the contribution for that amount was about 9.2 million. We created about 310 direct jobs, 9,000 indirect, and the total revenue from this sector is about 64 million. Shall be done now. I want to give you just a snapshot of some of the farmers that we have on the program. This is one of, I remember when I started a few years ago, this person was doing 3 hectares. In the following year, he asked to be out because he wasn't coping. And then he came back with 160-degree speed. He's now doing 60 hectares. He's got an off-take agreement with McCain. He plants his private one, the Mondial, and then he plants the FL 218, for PepsiCo. He is now a host farmer. He's going to be having a big contract with PepsiCo, and the neighboring farmers are going to supply through him. He is now commercial in his own right, and believe it or not, he started on 3 hectares. He's expanding and expanding. He's got state-of-the-art pack house, which was funded by the government. So we're actually very excited about this commercial farmer that we have. We have this young chap, he's doing 20 hectares. Remember I said we try to get them to 30 hectares. So he's doing 20 hectares. But I want to bring your attention, maybe let me go to the previous one, your attention to the tonnage, the 67 tons per hectare. The industry average for this region is 55. So there's nothing wrong with our developing farmers. They are getting what is supposed to be, or what the commercial farmers are getting, and some of them even far more. Very few commercial farmers get that tonnage. Well, some get more, but some get less as well. So this one young chap took over the father. He's on 20 hectares, doing very well, getting a tonnage of 60 hectares. They supply the open market, meaning that they sell to the hawkers. They also have an opportunity to sell to the Mozambican market because they're almost at the border. So the trucks from Mozambique, they come directly to buy potatoes from these farmers. Okay, this is another farmer that we have. This one is going to be commercial. He's only in his second year with us. He's in the coastal area, and the average for that area is about 43 tons per hectare, and he's already doing 50 tons, 20 hectares. The idea is that we are going to expand him. So this one will definitely be exited at the end of 4 years because he's almost there, and you can see that he's a good farmer. Luckily for him, he has loan funding from one of the commercial banks in South Africa, and he has a very good relationship with some of the cooperatives in the area. Okay, this is another farmer as well, but I want to bring your attention to the tonnage. You see, this one is on 17 hectares. The idea is that in the next cycle, depending that they have availability of enough land to expand. But we are going to take this farmer to 30 hectares, support him for a year or two, and then exit them on the program. Okay, Chair, this is my second last slide. I'm done. Thank you for your patience. Some of the challenges that are experienced by the developing farmers, and I think it goes for all countries, there's similar challenges. It's access to enough land for rotation. I think with us, the land issue in South Africa is still a very big one. Farmers don't have access to enough land. Most of the farmers that we are supporting, they lease land from the tribal authorities. So they have a permission to occupy for a certain number of years, but it's up to the tribal authority whether they keep that promise or not. So the idea is that going forward, we need to work with government and make sure that they provide access to land to the farmers that we have started with. Access to finance is a big one. I think maybe the slowness of the expansion of the farmers is because of the lack of funding. I think we are forever speaking to the banks because their lending criteria is very strict. It's not favorable for some of the farmers that we are supporting. And I think another challenge is inadequate infrastructure and machinery. You can't plant 30 hectares of potatoes by hand. So I think that limits the farmers' growth in terms of moving forward. Access to markets, I think we have a challenge that most of these farmers, they sell to the open market. And you know the price there can fluctuate. I think what we want to move towards is that they have fixed contracts so that the price is fixed. They know that a certain percentage is going to go to a McCain or a PepsiCo. And so these are some of the challenges that we are experiencing. In conclusion, Chair, I think what we want to do as an organization is to implement a funding model that is going to be suitable to the developing farmers, and we make sure that they grow. We want to actually encourage crop rotation and diversification. I think our farmers think that they can only plant potatoes and that's it, and we actually need to encourage that. I think another challenge that we have is the exclusion of female farmers. So I think one is making an effort to actually get more female farmers who can participate on the program. And for us, Chair, we want to bring in more role players to participate on this program to ensure the sustainability of these farmers. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Navumla. That was a real good flavour of a real expanding potato industry there in South Africa. So we're flying back up to Europe now, and we have Thomas Herkenrath from the Deutsche Kartoffelhandelsverband, DKHV. To you, Thomas. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Cedric, and thank you for this incredible speech. You took 75% of my time, but okay, I have to hurry up a little bit. So, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Thomas Herkenrath, as Cedric said, the president of the Deutsche Kartoffelhandelsverband. I know it's a very difficult word. But I'm also the owner from the company Fritz Junikel from Neuss. We are potato traders. We are specialized in seed and table potato business. And I'm quite happy to be here back in present. As Cedric said yesterday, it's better to be in the room than in the Zoom. And it's great to be here again with all these potato maniacs here in Dublin. So I would like to tell you in the next 15 minutes, or no, sorry, in the next 5 minutes, I will try to give you a short overview from the perspective of Germany, what's going on and how maybe we can drive consumption. When I started in the business 30 years ago, the potato life seemed to be very easy. Farmers planted potatoes without any certification. Machines were smaller, one-row harvester, farmers planted potatoes, and after harvesting, they start looking, where will I sell my potatoes? Depending on the quality, they got a good price, a bad price, and they decided which way they would like to sell the potatoes. In recent years, the food sector and consequently the potato sector underwent significant changes. Nowadays, we are using high-tech machines, 4-row harvesters, GPS navigation system for precise farming, and so on. And also the market structure changed. Farmers can't sell potatoes without any certification. We have so many certifications, and at least minimum one has to be fulfilled. We are faced with new challenges, including climate change, increasing requirements by law, private sector demands by supermarkets and NGOs, as well as a shift in consumer sentiment towards regional sustainable food. But did all these extra requirements influences the consumption in a positive way? So to be honest, I don't think so. With all these certifications, regulations, and other requirements, potatoes are just still potatoes from the perspective of the consumers. Consumers are confused by all the labels and have absolutely, many, many times, no idea what are the idea behind the label. So under these conditions, Germany has established itself as Europe's biggest potato producer. More than 20% of the potatoes in the EU are harvested in Germany. But from all these potatoes are all over Europe, around about 5 to 10% only production as organic potatoes. As you can see, the big five are Germany, Poland, France, Netherlands, and Belgium. The development of the production also has influenced the market prices. If we take a look at the prices for potatoes in the EU, we can see the connection between the production volume and prices. Bigger production means lower prices. The country with higher prices here is Greece. And these prices are from 22. You can see the right scale. It was Greece with €4.70. But Greece is, let me say, on place 16 and 17 regarding volumes. Germany in 22, you have to pay €1.72, which is 36% cheaper than Greece. In Belgium, you only had to pay in 2020 60 cents per 100 kilogram, which means it's 87% cheaper. In Poland, €1.45, in Austria, €1.36, and in Netherlands, €1.02. As you can see, the cheapest big five are the producers with the highest production in Germany. It's a fact that in countries like Germany, Poland, Netherlands, and Belgium, the quality are very high, but the prices are low. Additional to the total yield of a country, we also can state out that in countries with a high gross-domestic product, the prices for potatoes are lower than in countries with a lower GDP. This also applies to the total spendings in food in general, worldwide. In countries with high GDP, the consumers have to spend on food a less percentage of their total income as in other countries. Hereby, potatoes are among one of the cheapest food. You can see, for example, in Nigeria, you have to use 56% of your income to buy food. In Germany, it's only 10.3%. And in countries with very high GDP, like USA, you only have to spend 6.7% of your income to get your food. Even if potatoes are cheap in Germany, it has a healthy, safe, and tasteful. It's a healthy, safe, and tasteful food. When the first scandals raised up more about than 20 years ago about food, the certification systems also for potatoes were founded, and residue analysis became normal for us. Years ago, the German Potato Trading Association developed a database to collect residue analysis results for potatoes in Germany. Most of the results from the German laboratories are going anonymized into our database. So we have a perfect overview about the quality situation in Germany. You can see, for example, over the last 3 years, 80% of all analyses of potatoes were without any residue. So you might say it's like organic, but it's not organic production. For sure, they used active ingredients, but in the tuber itself, you can't find any residue. 40% of all analyses or all residues were with 1 active ingredient found, and only 6% with 2 active ingredients found. The main active ingredients found were products for sprout protection, like dimethylnaphthalene or chlorpropan. You know, chlorpropan, everybody knows it, is forbidden in Europe, and I think that in the next years also the 14 and 6% will go down because we will find chlorpropan anymore in a few years. There were no sample with more than 2 active ingredients. There were no sample with a residue higher than 30% of the allowed MRL, and there were no sample with a forbidden or not certified product inside. So in whole Europe, sorry, what's that? Something happened here. What's going on? So there are missing some slides, I don't know why. But however, it's a trick. They skipped it because I have not enough time. Okay. However, so in Europe, I will explain everything without the sheets. So in Europe, the statistics tell us that consumption of potatoes are going down and down every year. And so many countries decided to have advertisement campaigns to push the consumption of potatoes. And there we can realize that, especially in the 5 big countries, we have really nice advertisement campaigns to push the consumption of the potatoes. But the decision of the consumer in the supermarket, what are the 7 selection criteria why consumers buy potatoes? On the first level, the first criteria is the price. And I would like to say the second criteria is the price. And the third is healthy reasons. The fourth is visual quality. How do the potatoes look like? Then they take care about the origin. Are these local productions or coming from abroad? And then the next criteria is sustainability reasons. Do I have a good feeling when I buy this potato? Is it a pleasure for me to buy it? And on the last place, we have brands, varieties, or do I have new products? So, but not only because of the pandemic, also on the 24th of, here we are, but also on the 24th of February, the food supply situation in Europe changed completely due to the Russian war. Rising energy costs and product costs, as well as labor and logistic problems, force us to rethink food supply. How to drive consumptions is not the main questions anymore. To adapt and mitigate the impact of geopolitical instability on our system, it is important to focus on developing self-sufficient structures. We learned that we must focus on our own self-supply, and at the same time, we have the duty to share with other countries where hunger crises exist or evolving. Potatoes have the potential to solve many problems around the world. Potatoes are very water efficient. You can see here on this table, potatoes need only 135 liters to produce 1 kilo of potatoes. For example, wheat, you need 10 times more, around about 1,410 liters, or rice, 25 times more, 3,470 liters, or, for example, beef, everybody knows it, you need 150 times more water than to produce 1 kilo of potatoes. Potatoes feed the human body with all major nutrients. You can live only from potatoes. Potatoes are easy to grow in some climate zones, as we learned before. You can have 2 or more crops per year. Until today, we have enough potatoes in the EU to feed our people. But the requirements and restrictions for the farmers are higher and higher every year, and the costs are exploding. On top of that, we start reducing agriculture areas as protected landscapes. The EU Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy, together with the political goal to have more organic production in the future, reduces the number of fields, not only in Germany. At the same time, the population in the EU is growing. We have many, many refugees from other countries coming to us, and I'm quite sure because of the crisis we have with wheat that there will be more refugees coming. And we can't ignore the climate change. The last years we had floodings as well as droughts in Germany. You see the two pictures up there. It's from the same field. In 1 year we had a flooding there and I had to go there as an expert to make an expertise. And in the next year I have to go there because we had a drought and all the potatoes were gone. Farmers may change to other agriculture products which they are maybe more efficient for them. And efficient, I'm talking about earning money and to have less risk and less work. So for me, the main questions are, can we continue to afford the luxury of bonding or repurposing agriculture land and imposing ever more stringent and restrictive agriculture quality and product standards? Do we risk our self-supply in Germany and in Europe? How can we find a middle ground between sufficient yields and our renowned quality standards, and although motivate farmers to cultivate potatoes for fresh consumption in the future? How can we innovate and combine solutions to manage these present and future challenges in order to secure and reinforce our country's common food supply? To find the right solutions to answer these questions will be the big challenges for the next years. And of course, we must protect our environment and must fight on climate change very sustainable and now. Driving consumption leads to the fact that we have to secure our self-supply first. The European consumption can't grow significant, but there are many other worldwide markets ready for potatoes, as we learned before. Thank you for your attention.
Good time. Thanks very much, Thomas. And yeah, some really big questions there that Thomas was posing at the end to make us all think. So our final speaker in this session is Ronald Otianio from the Pataz Association in Peru. So Ronald, thanks very much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. You please excuse me, but my English is not very fluent. So 3 read slides. The topic its presentation is or Trisura in the Andes native potatoes in the North Highland of Peru. In Pataz Association have 5 institute objectives. This work is with this objective that promover economic development. Scope intervention. The objetivos in this work are to give value the biological diversity, to identify 2 or 3 native varieties for commercialization, to improve the economy income the farmers. The areas this work are farm location, participating families, description information, descriptive result, technical assistance and training for native potato farmers, Aguapan, a custodian network and model for benefit sharing, and video summary of the work. Participant localities, Chugay, with more than 20,000 inhabitants, 95% located in rural areas dedicated to agriculture. Each local at 3,400 meters above sea level of average. In the photos, we can see some villages from where have collected native potatoes. La segunda localidad is Tayabamba. The province is dedicated to agriculture and has 14,505 inhabitants. In this province, there is very successful mining activity. Is localidad at average altitude of 3,245 meters above sea level. These photos, we see some villages from where are collected native potatoes. Family participants. In both Chugay and Tayabam, its inhabitants depend of agriculture for living. Their clothing is typical for cold or high altitude areas. They all speak only Spanish. Their income is obtained from the sale of their agriculture potatoes. Description information. It has analysis from space, common name that is age, place, abundance, diploidia, cultivar group. In the case, there are diploids, triploids, and tetraploids. Also, with this, the morphological, agronomical, and nutritional description, cultivar, culinary uses, and the molecular information has generated represent a Kipu for Chugay and QR code for Tayabamba. One result, we have the characterization of 129 varieties in Chugay and 151 varieties in Tayabamba. From 2010 to 2016, the work has done in Chugay, and from 2016 to 2022, Tayabamba has a concrete resultado, published a book, The Varieties in Chugay. There are two varieties potato are formally commercialization. Native potatoes for consuming are formally commercialization through the collection brand Miskipapa. Regarding technical assistance, is done 19% in the field. Around 20,000 technical assistance services have been done at more or less 2,500 farmers were trained. Or articulación con which Aguapan y thank you up to SID and other collaborators has HCPC Agricole for private sector, and thank you this collaboration or farmers can continue farming. We would like to more international organization support the poor farmers in Peru. We are generating the baseline information at the national level at The width above has to monitor the potato varieties and canal how they are progressing and ultimate prevent the from the being lost. And now a short video on resume of for Europe.
And are renowned for their high level of potato production. Approximately 25,000 hectares of potatoes are planted annually in the Libertad. This represents more than 6% of the crop area in the Peruvian Andes, and together with Puno, Huánuco and Cusco, is one of the largest potato producers in Peru. Chugay is one of the 8 districts of Sánchez Quirón province, and in this place, potatoes are mainly used for family consumption and food safety. This production is vital for the local economy because of their better prices compared to improved varieties. Chugay's 9 farming families cultivate around 129 varieties of native potatoes, which are not only a wide food source but also a protection strategy against climatic events and pests. Tayabamba is one of the 13 districts of the Patás province, and 151 native potato varieties are produced in this place. They provide an important livelihood for its 14 farming families and an important balance between flora and fauna. Native potato varieties possess unique properties of great agricultural, scientific, economic, and nutritional values, since they represent an important source of carbohydrates, minerals, and vitamins. Native potatoes characterization seeks to reveal and show the genetic diversity of the most emblematic tuber of our country and the wide variety that is produced in the region of La Libertad, especially in the Chugay and Tayabamba districts, and thus be able to have a precise control of agrobiodiversity in the future. This also aims to recognize the peasant communities and farming families' work and their invaluable labor in the management and conservation of native potato varieties, always together with the Agrarian Research Area of the Patás Association. This genetic fingerprint, inspired by the design of Equipo, is represented by a set of 22 macroside-like molecular markers, or SSRs. Every string represents a macroside-like molecular marker, so there are 22 strings covering each of the 12 potato chromosomes. All of the Chugay and Tayabamba's production is traded as embrosadas, native potatoes, in Aguapan through the Miski Papa brand.
Thank you. Sorry for the back.
Thank you, Ronald, and I can't think of a better place to stop our whistle-stop tour of the world of potatoes and in Peru. So that's great. Many thanks for that. So we're back here at 4:30, 16:30 for the next plenary session. So enjoy your coffee and make some new potato friends while you have your coffee. Many thanks. Thank you for your time. And thanks to Elizabeth and to Nuvumla, to Thomas and to Ronald. Thank you. Thanks.